And so
Like
when
this.
you met them from the beginning, did you know that you were going to kill them when they picked you up in their cars?
I pretty much, I pretty much had them selected that they were going to die. I killed those 7 men in first-degree murder and robbery. As they said, they had it right. A serial killer.
You know their crimes. You've heard about their victims. And you've had a glimpse into their mind. But do you really want to know what would make someone snap? Do you wonder how someone becomes a cold-blooded killer? Is the psyche of a serial killer all that different from yours? Is it possible you may even know someone with a proclivity toward evil? We're about to dive deep into the heart of what makes people tick. Is it nature or is it nurture? You decide. Welcome to another episode of Let's Be Frank, the True Crime All the Time podcast. My name is Franklin James, the serial author, and this is my reliable-ish co-host.
Frank.
Yeah, welcome back. Do you like the hat?
It's growing on me.
It's growing on
I
you?
wasn't sure. Admittedly, I did give him some shit for that, but
You did give me shit for this.
it's a cross between like Freddy Krueger and Yellowstone, right?
Yeah, I'm a huge Yellowstone fan.
Shout out to Yellowstone.
Yeah, it's got a lot of stuff I like. You know, there's some drama in it. There's tits.
There you go. That's all it takes.
There's murder. So yeah, I'm hooked already.
No,
So.
I think it does. It's a good look.
Oh, thank you.
I like
Thank
it.
you. Giddy up.
If anybody else has comments, good or bad,
Yeah, good or bad, just let me know.
Let him
My
know.
self-esteem's fine. Everything's fine.
His ego is not large
Everything's
at all.
fine. So we have a doozy.
We have a doozy, and this is
Today.
a good one. This was really good.
This is a good one. Aileen Wuornos.
Aileen Wuornos.
Considered to be one of America's first female serial killers, which is not true.
It is not.
Actually, it's Belle Gunness.
Yep.
The
We may have to
Belle
do her.
Gunness.
some
I would
point.
love to do Belle Gunness. I did her though already.
Oh, right, because you have the other.
I
That's
have-
my bad.
So I have a podcast, self-insert, self-plug.
No,
Shameless,
absolutely.
but it's
Check
connected.
it out.
It's connected to our channel
Yeah.
too. So it's called Murder, Mayhem, and Malice Intent. So I have content on there just about random cases and people, current, old, unsolved. But yeah,
It's
check
good.
it out.
Check it out.
Like, share, and subscribe. So back to Aileen, the American Boogie Woman, the
Damsel of Death.
the Damsel of Death, Angel of Death,
Monster.
the Monster. I mean, she
Little
had
Cluck,
a
which a
lot
lot
of
of people know her from the movie. I think that's when she really gained a lot of national attention.
No, yeah, Charlize Theron played her,
Right.
right, and she did win the Academy Award.
Right.
for
And
that movie.
little known fact, so Charlize, she did a fantastic job
No, yeah,
playing her.
phenomenal job.
And she felt that she really connected with her more so because growing up, it's my understanding, and anybody that can comment or has more information about this, please do. But she grew up with an abusive stepfather who was more so abusive to her mother, and actually witnessed her mother shooting her stepfather in self-defense
It's crazy.
during a domestic situation. So, she felt like she could sort of relate to Aileen a little bit more.
Right.
So yeah, just an interesting little tidbit.
Yeah, check out The Monster. I actually watched Netflix's, I think it's their original, The American Boogie Woman,
Mhm.
Aileen Wuornos, on there today. And I thought it was going to be more about like her origin and stuff, but it wasn't. So it stars Peyton List. She also, and you probably aren't familiar with her.
I know
but-
Peyton List.
Okay, yeah. So she's also an actress in Cobra Kai, and I really love that show as well. But it more focused on her relationship with Louis Fell,
Okay.
like how she came to meet him, the interaction between like the other both men and his son and his daughter, just like that exchange, and her times when she would go to the bar and get into these situations with the men and the men who were trying to assault her, and she having to defend herself. And yeah, so it just kind of
Wow.
went into like that particular period of her life when she was with him. in
Well, and
general.
Peyton, she started out as a child star.
Yes, I believe she did. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
which I mean that's probably another podcast as
In
well.
itself.
We
Yeah.
all have probably come to know
Yeah.
how things turn out with
s-
that.
I've seen that Nickelodeon special.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Disney, Nickelodeon, that's another one, but
I
that may be something we need to look
well,
into.
so not to get on the conspiracy thing, but I actually saw that the Nickelodeon sign kind of looks like Epstein Island. So the way that's
Not surprising, but
Yeah.
very good
Yeah.
catch. Yeah.
So, but back on Eileen.
I know. This is
But
good stuff. This
I
is
mean,
gonna be
we
in the
can
back
talk
of my
about
mind.
this
Yeah.
stuff as well. But
Conspiracy Theory Thursdays,
yeah,
maybe, huh?
I mean, that's something. Look at you contributing to some things.
I do. I contribute maybe I bring some stuff to the
No,
table
you bring.
once in a while.
That'd be nice. You bring a lot to the table. So.
Well, thank you,
Mhm.
Frank.
Just being frank.
You know what? Let's talk about Eileen and not
So
Frankie.
Eileen was doomed from the start. She was doomed from.
She
She was
was.
doomed from conception.
Man, this girl was just.
Like she did not get dealt the.
It's a
hand.
doozy.
Yeah.
She's a doozy. Her story, everything is a doozy about it.
So mom was married. I saw mom was married to Leo Pittman when
Oh.
she was 13 and he was 17.
Oh.
Yes.
How
They
does that
were-
even.
They,
Is
I don't-
parental
it's-
permission
hey,
required?
I don't know. This is Rochester, Michigan. So
In the
who fuck-
50s?
Yeah, in the 50s.
Because Eileen was born in 56.
Yeah, her brother Keith was 55. So yeah, it was the
Man.
early to late 50s.
And it's not like it was an arranged marriage. It's not a cultural thing.
No.
So we don't know, but clearly there's a backstory to that.
There must be a backstory to that situation.
You know, how do you end up as a 13-year-old girl getting married?
Yeah.
In Michigan in the 50s?
Was it some like
She
generational
sold?
thing
I
where
don't
he
know.
knocked her up and her parents were like, well, or his parents were
And
like,
that's a
well,
possibility.
you gotta marry her. So mom's 13, dad's 17 when they have Keith. Mom's 14, dad's 18 when they have Eileen. And yeah, dad, he's got some rough stuff with the law. He's
He does.
child molestation charges. He was
Shocker.
sent to jail. Yeah, like I said, from conception.
Couldn't see that coming after marrying a 13-year-old child.
Not at
But
all. Not at all. But at some point, Diane, her mom, and Leo, they do divorce.
Mhm.
I don't know how old she was. I don't know if she was 16 at the time or what, but they do.
Was it after he went to prison?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, because he was imprisoned for a while. I
He
don't know a
was.
lot of the details about his conviction, but it was
No.
he was going to be there for a long time.
He was, and he was also suffering from mental illness as well. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia
Mhm.
as well. So, yeah, doomed. He was also doomed.
Still
as
no
well.
excuse.
No, I'm not. No,
You don't mess with
no,
kids.
not at all. But that shit's learned behavior, though. Like that, it just
Right, it
you
came
just
from
don't
somewhere
wake up
too.
and be like,
Sure.
I'm gonna touch kids now. Like that shit's
Right.
That shit's learned
Right.
beef, you know.
And
But
it's possible and likely that Eileen's mother, Diane, she knew.
oh well, yeah,
She knew something was
Right.
going on.
right.
And she wasn't well herself.
No.
Whether that was from, I mean, I would think it's traumatic enough to have a child and become a mother at 13 and to have two by 14 and then your husband goes to jail,
I mean, just,
you know?
yeah. I mean, just what we know about the Wuornos household, I can 100% believe she had some form of mental illness.
Right.
She was suffering.
Right.
From. Yeah.
We just don't know
We
if it
just
was
don't
there
know
beforehand or if it was
If
a trickle down
nature,
effect from,
if nature was like, no, nurture. If nurture was like, I'm gonna fuck with you.
it could have been. Because I
Yeah.
don't know whose parents would say, yeah, it's okay, get married to this guy. Even if you're like you're 13.
I know. Yeah.
You're
it's-
13.
It's a way of.
Um,
It was a way of life.
So
I guess.
ultimately and unsurprisingly and unfortunately, Diane abandons her kids to her parents.
She does. Eileen is 4. Keith is 5. She ends up abandoning them. I think she was 16. No, that's not right.
It was 15 or so. It
It
wasn't.
was one of those, right?
Eileen was very young.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, I think Diane was 16 when she ended up. No, she wasn't. I think Diane was 20.
Well,
think.
wait. So if Eileen was if Keith was, you said was 5,
Keith was 5, yes,
so
when mom left.
so
So
she
yeah,
would have been, and then Eileen was already born. So yeah, 20 would
about
make
20.
sense.
Yeah, so that's
Okay,
when she leaves. Dad hung himself
in prison.
in prison.
Hmm.
So yeah, very tortured. And I believe he hung himself later though. I think Eileen was like a
Right,
12 maybe,
because for a
somewhere
while
around there.
Eileen didn't know anything about her
Yeah, she
father.
never met him. She never
Right,
met her father. Yeah.
and if she did, she has no recollection. So with that being said, she thought that her grandparents were her real parents for
Yeah.
a while.
Till she was 10.
Yeah.
I found out, which surprisingly similar story to Ted Bundy. He also thought his grandparents were his biological parents as well. So, but I can see how having that news would cause some type of strife and turmoil within, even more, right? Especially for Eileen.
Well, and how it was delivered. I mean, do you know how that came about,
I
that she
don't.
realized it? I mean,
I
she
don't.
said, so I guess her grandmother was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Her grandfather was very abusive.
Right.
Um,
And I'm sure he
I'm sure
also
it was a
had
tumultuous,
his drinks
yeah,
as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
a tumultuous household for
Yeah.
sure. And so was it something that was said in a fit of rage, like, you don't even belong to us, your dad was a, child molester and he died in jail, like, you know what I mean? We don't
No,
know how that came out, but I
could
can't imagine
be.
it was like a sweet, let's sit down and talk kind of thing. We have something to tell
Right.
you.
I know for like one of the toolbox killers. I don't know if you've ever heard of the toolbox.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I know for Roy Norris, his parents pretty much told him. I think he was put in juvie, I believe, and then he got out, and his parents pretty much told him because they were angry, like we didn't even want you, like you weren't even. Yeah,
And you
you
can't
are your
imagine. I
sibling.
can't even imagine now
Yeah,
being told
right.
by my mom or dad, like, we didn't want you,
And he's a
at
teen
my
at the
ripe
time.
old
Exactly. That's
age.
what I'm saying. Can you imagine like a teen hearing that?
No.
Like it's insane.
Especially the insecurities that you go through in adolescence,
Yeah,
right?
like
Like, you don't feel like you fit in anywhere.
no,
And then to
yeah,
have your parents say that you're not wanted, you're like, well, it's unfathomable. I
yeah.
just can't understand it. So, needless to say, it was a rough start.
Doing from the start.
Pre-puberty rough start,
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
so her brain is developing, she's developing into a young lady. By age 6, then she has another traumatic event, right?
The
Where
fire.
there's a fire. Her and her brother are playing with matches or something, and she ends up with burns that scar her face. And for a little girl, that could be very traumatizing
Oh, for sure.
and also lead to feelings of being unwanted or not good enough, unaccepted,
No
not
no
pretty,
self-esteem,
you're not fitting in.
no self-worth.
Right.
Yeah,
You know.
everything's getting affected now.
Um,
I'm sure neurologically her brain was getting rewired for sure
yes.
on a neurological level.
And by 11, she was trading sexual favors for money, beer, cigarettes.
You can already draw from that, you know, however old she was when it started, she was
Mhm.
being abused
She was.
physically, emotionally. I mean, to get to the point where you now know you can use your sexuality as a tool to get the things that you need.
Right.
I mean,
This was certainly
you learn
a
that.
prelude of things to come.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. But she definitely learned that somehow,
Yes.
you know.
And
Sad.
it sounds like, so, and childhood friends did say, in addition to being physically abused, she was also sexually abused by her grandfather.
Childhood friend said she was sexually
Yes.
abused by her grandfather.
Yeah. And I don't think Eileen really talked much about that.
I don't recall interviews where she talked much about it. No.
Right. So she ended up at 14 pregnant
She did, yeah.
by a friend of the grandfather.
Which is just sickening.
So it makes you wonder, was he
Sickening.
passing her around?
Like,
Or was
oh,
she just trying to gain some sort of attention and affection from an adult male?
I know, could go either way.
Who knows?
Because I'm sure she was seeking some type of attention, some type of love.
Right. Because I guess her grandmother too, like, blamed her and was like, that she wanted it, that she consented to it. It's like she can't consent at that
No,
age,
she can't.
regardless.
I think grandma was kind of, I don't know, she was probably filled with guilt as well, and trying to
Sure.
rationalize what was going on and trying to blame her instead of taking some accountability, right, for
Right. Like
what's
she already
going
raised
on
a
under her
daughter
roof. Yeah,
who had a child
yeah, who likely experienced the same form of
who was
abuse.
abused, whose husband ended up in jail for abuse, who probably also abused her grandchild. We don't know, but then she gets, the responsibility of being the sole caretaker with her husband for her granddaughter, for
Right,
Eileen.
right.
And now she's ending up pregnant by an adult male. She had to know
It's like
that
this cycle all
there is
over
a
again.
cycle,
Yeah,
take some sort of responsibility, but she didn't.
she
Instead, Eileen was blamed.
that's how she, and I don't know, like I feel like that's how she rationalized what was going on. She had to blame Eileen because she was so helpless to what was going on. And
Perceived
right,
helplessness, right? I mean,
right.
I don't think anybody is really helpless, but I think that
I mean, she might have felt
you are where
scared
you
to,
are in that
yeah,
point in life.
like I'm sure she was facing up on a
Yeah.
lot of his abuse as well, and she was walking on eggshells and had to cater to his whims, whatever he needed. So, she probably did feel like there's legit nothing I can do. Like
Yeah.
I
And
want
she
to
wanted
do
to block it
something. And
out. She just,
she blocked it out. Alcohol, that was
right.
her coping thing. And then, it's your fault, Eileen. Like this is on you,
Hmm.
which definitely doesn't help a kid, right?
No. And I mean, I think there's so much blame that could be tossed around here, but ultimately,
The household was fucked.
it was fucked. Nothing,
Yeah.
and it impacted Eileen to a great extent. So she was pregnant, and it actually took her like 6 months to even reveal that she was pregnant. So
Oh
she was
yeah,
6 months
right,
along.
right.
Um,
They sent her somewhere, right? Her
yeah, and she had
grandparents
to give up the
for
child,
adoption, yeah.
which again, another pattern of abandonment, right?
Yeah.
Like she probably
Yeah.
felt like, okay, now I'm just going to abandon my child.
Like the amount of guilt she
Right.
probably
Like
felt.
we don't know that did she want to keep the baby? I mean,
Right.
granted, she wasn't in a position to actually do that, like and be capable of raising
Raising a
a child.
being a child herself.
But emotionally,
Right.
that had
I'm sure it
to
took a
weigh on her.
huge toll on her.
You can't have a child and just have it not impact you in some
form,
way,
yeah,
shape, or form.
in some form of another. Yeah. Gave them up for adoption. Does grandma die shortly after
Yeah.
that? She dies of cirrhosis, and now she's alone with Lori.
Hmm.
She's alone with Lori. And it even got to a point with Lori where he was like, I can't, like, I'm done with you.
Right.
And he kicked her out, essentially.
Yep.
So now she's 15. She's alone. She's living in the woods near her home,
Hmm.
living in abandoned cars,
Trying to stay in school.
trying to stay in school.
And like there was that situation where, because she did have a couple of close friends,
Mhm.
and interviews were done with those friends, and one of them had said that she made an effort to try to stay in school, like you said. I mean, she was homeless, and she tried to like set up this party, because she was in and out for a little bit at the grandparents' house, even after he kicked her out. I think that she was allowed to go back, periodically, but she tried to have this party, and she really wanted people to like her. She wanted to be accepted, and all these people got invited to this, party. You're a teenager, and they, people show up to it, but then they end up throwing her out on the back porch and locking her out of her own home, and just having this party without her. Which I don't know, that something about that it really bothers
It's really
me.
sad. It's sad. Like, this is your party.
Like she turned into a shit person. There's no doubt about it. But I'm just thinking it as like from her teenage years, like this young girl.
It's a lot.
Like, holy shit, she
yeah.
just cannot.
It's a shit start. I can't imagine throwing a party and being kicked out of it.
It's your own house.
like,
She
it's
was
so-
so
it's
excited
so
too,
fucked.
apparently. Like
Like this girl, all types of rejection. Like
Yeah.
all types of rejection. But yeah, so she ends up dropping out of school, right?
Yeah.
IQ not that high. It's around yours, right? Wasn't hers?
It is. Hers was, I think, maybe 1 point below. Because hers was established in 81, which is considered below dull to normal range.
Right.
An IQ at or below 70 is
Okay.
generally accepted as indicating as mental
It's got you by
retardation.
10 points, huh?
So yeah, because I'm like at a 69 probably.
Yeah, you would be.
hmm
Again, I'm gonna be nice.
It's mean.
It's the holiday season.
I actually don't know what my IQ is. I think it's at least in the like 3-figure.
Oh, yours is in the 3. Mine's is
At
in
least
the
100.
3
I don't even know. I always wanted to take an IQ test, but they take so long.
They do. They take.
So I just
It's like, how much does it take to really assess my intelligence? It's like,
right?
oof. Yeah, I don't care what mine's is.
Yeah. I mean, I've made
Unless
it this far
until
in
I take the
life.
test and find out.
I
And I'm like
know.
obsessing about how stupid
They're
I
like,
am.
you're a 52.
Like, for fuck's sakes.
52
It
Frank.
all makes sense. It all
Everything comes full circle.
Oh man, so that's why school was so rough.
You're probably in the 3-figure range.
Maybe not.
You know, what's high, like a 160 or something?
So yeah, so actually I think genius level is like 138 or 39 and
Oh, like
up.
the Mensa.
That's like considered genius level. So like 160 is like off the fucking
Okay, so yeah, in all
charts.
seriousness, the last time I did have something similar, I was actually invited into Mensa.
Oh, were you?
Nope. Sure wasn't. Totally
more like
made that up.
More like Menses, right? Ooh. Dun, 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 dun.
Okay. I didn't even do that right. Okay.
So that IQ does stand. That's 69.
All right, let's move on.
Hopefully
This
you're
is a
better
serious
at 69s
topic.
than fucking yeah. So yeah,
So rude.
I am very rude. Well, you know, like I said, there's a little something special about me. So
Well, we know with
yeah,
your low IQ,
exactly.
you are considered
That's why
special.
we get along so well.
Underneath that hat is a helmet. He doesn't hurt himself.
How do you think I got here on that bus, the short one?
Oh,
So I got here
I was
today.
wondering what it was doing out there when I pulled in. I had to wait. I saw this little hat bounce off.
Oh, you know, my fucking.
You got to go to the grocery store and get some Hot Pockets.
Well, actually, after this podcast, I got to go outside and ring that bell. Got to do some good. Got to do some good. It's the only job I can do. So
don't give shit. Are you talking about the Salvation Army bell? They are volunteers.
I'm saying that's the only job I can do. That's what I'm saying. Just ringing bells.
Wow.
Just ringing bells. Aileen should have just started ringing bells.
She should have, but instead.
But instead, she decided to hitchhike and start prostituting
along the coast.
Yeah,
she was ringing bells, but in a totally different way.
Yeah, shout out to that song. But
Okay.
ring my bell. Yeah. So until she got to Florida, and met Louis Fell, the yachtsman.
Right? She should have just stayed put.
Yeah, he had money.
This dude had money, and he
had,
by all accounts, adored her.
Yes, he did.
She had it made.
She did.
But I think this also goes to just how emotionally damaged she was.
Right.
Because even in a situation like that, where this guy was, like I said, by all accounts, kind to her and wanted to help her, she couldn't handle it. And she became abusive to him. Their marriage lasted a whole 9 weeks.
Violent and ungovernable.
Ungovernable, he
is
described
how he
her,
described
right?
her.
Which, using that term, I almost think maybe he was a little controlling. I can't help, like, because who says that unless,
I know.
you are ungovernable.
I know.
Someone said that to me, I might hit him with a bat too.
Well, it's true about you, though. You are
It is a little bit
ungovernable.
true. I am a little bit, but
I try to rein
you know
you
what? We're
in
not
so many times.
we're not
but
talking
you,
about me.
right? We are
So
talking about
we're talking about
Eileen.
Eileen. So
No, I think the prolonged exposure to physical abuse and emotional abuse, I think it likely contributed to her inability to form healthy relationships.
some of the criminal psychologists later on that had interviewed her during her trial, not to get too far ahead,
No,
but
no, go for
they
it.
did say like she was probably completely and permanently incapable of having a healthy relationship with somebody, like
No,
a
I
healthy,
believe it.
intimate relationship with somebody, which is sad. I don't think she trusted anybody.
I think she definitely, well,
She didn't
especially
understand how
men.
to like communicate. She didn't understand what
Right.
it meant to be loved, how to give love, what love even looked like.
All she knew was survival.
Right.
That's all she knew. And sex got her things.
And I think it's probably the only way she actually felt um, human or like close to somebody, like because she felt that's where her value was.
Yeah, where it lied. Yeah.
And I don't. She was never really given affection as a child, except for being touched
Right.
inappropriately.
And that's what she learns.
You know,
'Cause
so to her, that's what love looks like.
Yeah.
That's really sad. That's really sad. So, needless to say, yeah, this 9-week marriage was dissolved.
That's right. 9 weeks. Yeah.
And then that same year, her brother,
Keith.
he dies from throat cancer. And I guess up until that point, like he was really the only like source of stability in her life.
Okay.
She maintained a pretty close relationship with him. They didn't talk often, but when they did, like they were good. Like they had a strong relationship
Okay.
for the most part.
So I did also learn that. So I'm sure they definitely experienced the same abuse, but then I also learned that they definitely partook in some sexual relations as well.
I did see that as well.
So, I mean, I don't know how much of that had an effect on their relationship. I don't know.
And you just can't help but to wonder, I'm not sure that either of them were intellectually or emotionally capable of
What
understanding
was going on?
how wrong that was.
Right.
We don't know if they were made to do things. We don't know if it's because he was also abused. I mean,
Or they were trying to find
that's a
comfort
very
within each
unusual
other's arms
situation, right?
because of the situation they're going through together. I mean,
Who knows?
we don't know.
It's sick. I mean, from a general public
Well,
perspective, it is, and it's wrong. It's sick. It's morally wrong. I mean, from all different
Right.
perspectives.
Right.
But clearly, there was something else going on that led them to feel like that was okay. So yeah, so he ends up dying from throat cancer, and then Grandpa committed suicide.
He did. He did commit suicide. Yeah, she was 21, I think, when he did it, or somewhere around
Well, he was
there.
Keith
He
was
had
21 when he died.
Keith was 21, so she was 20. So maybe
She was young.
She was young. Yeah. So yeah, grandfather committed suicide. I'm like so curious why. Like what led to after all of those years,
Right. Like why
why
then?
now? Like yeah, but she does get 10 grand for Keith's life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
I believe she gets 10 grand from him. Yeah, she spends it on buying luxury items. She bought a new car that she wrecked shortly afterwards. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Eileen, very destructive, very, very destructive
Yeah.
personality.
And gradually, I think at that point, for the next several years, she became very well known with the law,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
getting arrested in and
Just
out of jail for
a str-
all kinds of things.
I mean, we got car theft, we got disturbing the peace, we got DWIs, we've got assault,
I was gonna
armed
say various
robbery.
like assault charges, yeah. And it got worse
Like,
though over
oh,
time.
it
Like,
progressed. It tends to.
but she, I mean, when you look back and you see these different arrests and you see how clearly like it was increasing in the level of severity of the things that she was doing, is it a cry for help, or is it just an obvious sign to anybody with any sort of like understanding of how these criminals work? Like, look, she's not, something needs to happen.
Right.
Like, stop jailing her. Like, maybe she
She's
needs
not
to be
okay.
put,
Yeah.
maybe she needs help, right? Like,
Yeah.
let's try a different route. Because she was on various drugs, alcohol. I mean, they could have done
And already being predisposed to mental
a lot of
illness,
different things, I think, to help
trauma.
her. Whether or not it would have been like a permanent resolution, probably not. She
It
may
would
have
have been,
ultimately ended up where she is anyway, or
she
where
may
she
have,
was.
but I mean, you never know. Maybe she could have been provided the support and have that support system that she needed.
Right, because at that point she had nothing to lose.
Nothing.
Everybody in her life that she knew was gone.
Left her, abandoned her,
Right.
mistreated her.
Right.
Yeah, neglected her. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's
She
that's
started
all she
taking on
knew.
like aliases, using fake names, and all kinds of stuff. So fast forward to 86 when she meets Tyra.
She meets Tyra. I just want to go back.
Yeah.
So no, yeah. So she's definitely just mentally ill, and I did find out that 2 years after her brother did pass away, she tried to commit suicide. And I also found out that she tried to do it 6 times between the age of 14 and 22. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know that.
yeah, so she's struggling. Like, she does need help, and throwing her in jail, it's not rehabilitating her
Yeah.
at all.